There is a quiet kind of woman who walks into a room and something shifts. The air feels different. Men notice her not because she is the youngest, not because she is the loudest, and certainly not because she is trying the hardest. They notice her because she carries something rare, something that most women spend decades searching for but very few ever truly find. And today, we are going to talk about exactly what that is. Because here is the truth that nobody tells you when you are navigating love and relationships after 40, after 50, after 60, the rules have changed. The things that attract a good, emotionally mature man are not the things they showed you in movies. They are not the things your mother warned you about. They are not even the things most relationship coaches are talking about online. They are deeper, quieter, and far more powerful than anything you have been told to focus on. Welcome to the Heart Compass, the channel where we explore the emotional landscape of love, relationships, and the extraordinary inner life of women who refuse to settle, women who are bold enough to believe that the best chapters of their lives are still ahead of them. If this is your first time here, I want you to know that this is a space built for you, for the woman who has lived, who has loved, who has perhaps been hurt, and who is still beautifully, defiantly still open to connection. Before we dive into today's video, I want to ask you something from the heart. If this channel has ever given you something, a moment of clarity, a little courage, a shift in perspective, please take just a second right now and give this video a like. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to this channel. And while you are at it, subscribe if you have not already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a conversation like this one. Leave a comment below. Tell me which of these 10 things resonates most with you, because I read every single comment and your words genuinely shape the direction of this channel. Share this video with a woman in your life who deserves to hear this. And if you really want to show your love and support the work we do here, scroll down and send a super thanks. It helps us create more content like this and keep this community growing. Now, let us talk about the 10 things men love that only 1% of older women actually do. Number 1. She makes him feel like the most interesting person in the room without losing herself in the process. There is a version of attention that women have been taught to give men that is, honestly, exhausting and a little bit self-erasing. It is the kind of attention that nods along to everything, that laughs at every joke, even the bad ones, that dims its own light so the man in the room can shine a little brighter. This is not the attention we are talking about today. This kind of attention, the performing, the shrinking, the agreeable nodding, men feel it. They feel how hollow it is. They feel the performance underneath it. And while it might feel flattering for a moment, it does not build attraction. It does not build depth. It does not make a man want to come closer. What men, real men, emotionally available men, men who are ready for something meaningful, what they genuinely love is something entirely different. It is genuine curiosity. It is the quality of truly listening, not because you are waiting for your turn to speak, not because you are calculating your next move, but because you are actually interested, because something in you genuinely wants to know who this person is. Think about the last time someone made you feel like the most fascinating thing in the room, not through flattery, not through telling you that you were amazing, but through the way they leaned in slightly when you were talking, through the follow-up question that told you they had really heard what you said, through the way their eyes stayed on you like what you were saying mattered. That feeling, that warm, expansive, almost disorienting feeling of being truly seen is one of the most powerful emotional experiences a human being can have. And it is remarkably rare. Here is what makes this so specific to older women, and here is the challenge. As women get older, and particularly after relationships that may have been draining, dismissive, or even painful, many women develop a kind of emotional guardedness that shows up as detachment. The listening becomes more careful. The curiosity becomes more guarded. There is a wall up, not always visible, but felt. And on the other side of that wall, men sense the distance even when they cannot name it. The 1% of women who have this quality, genuine, engaged, present curiosity are magnetic in a way that defies age entirely. Because this is not about youth. This is not about beauty in the conventional sense. This is about the radical act of actually being present with another human being. Putting your phone down, letting the noise in your head go quiet for a moment, and choosing, deliberately and consciously, to be interested. Now, the crucial second half of this, and this is the part that separates the truly magnetic woman from the woman who simply performs interest, is doing all of this without losing herself. The woman we are talking about is curious about him, yes, but she also has opinions. She pushes back gently when she disagrees. She brings her own perspective into the conversation. She does not simply absorb and reflect. She contributes, she adds, she challenges, lovingly. This is the combination that is almost impossible to find. A woman who makes you feel heard and seen and endlessly interesting, while also being someone with her own inner world that you desperately want to know better. It creates a dynamic of mutual magnetism. He is drawn to her because she is interested in him, and he is drawn to her because she is interesting herself. These two things coexist in the rare woman, and together they are absolutely irresistible. How do you develop this? It starts with a simple practice. The next time you are in a conversation, resist the urge to redirect it back to yourself. Not because your stories do not matter, they absolutely do, but as an experiment. Stay in the other person's story a little longer. Ask one more question. Go one layer deeper and notice what shifts. Notice how the conversation changes. Notice how the other person's energy changes. Notice how you feel not diminished, but surprisingly more present, more engaged, more alive. The woman who has mastered this does not do it because she was told it attracts men. She does it because she has genuinely fallen in love with the art of human connection. And that love for people, for stories, for the complexity of other minds radiates from her in a way that is simply impossible to manufacture. Number 2, she has a life that she is genuinely in love with. This one is going to land a little differently for different women, and I want you to sit with it before you move on, because what I am about to say is not a criticism. It is an observation about something that is deeply understandable, deeply human, and also deeply limiting when it comes to the kind of love you are trying to attract. Many women, especially women who have devoted years or decades to raising children, or to a marriage that eventually ended, or to careers that left little room for the rest of life, arrive at this season of their lives having lost touch with what makes them come alive, what lights them up, what they are passionate about outside of their roles. And when they begin dating again, or thinking about love again, the relationship itself becomes the project. The man becomes the focus. The hope of connection becomes the thing they are most passionate about. And here is where the problem begins. Because men, particularly emotionally mature, self-aware men who have also done some living, can feel the difference between a woman who is excited about life and a woman who is excited about the idea of having someone to share life with. The first is magnetic. The second, despite being completely human and understandable, can create a kind of pressure that makes men pull back. Think about it from the inside out. When you are with someone who is deeply passionate about something, a garden they are cultivating, a business they are building, a cause they are devoted to, a creative practice they are obsessed with, a friendship group that brings them genuine joy, there is an energy to them, a vitality. They are lit from within. And being around someone who is lit from within is one of the most attractive experiences in the world. Now think about what happens when a woman's energy is primarily oriented toward the relationship, toward what he is doing, thinking, feeling, wanting, toward where things are going and what it all means. There is an anxious quality to this orientation, even when the woman is doing her best to hide it. It shows up in the questions she asks, in the way she checks her phone, in the little flinch when he does not call when she expected him to. Men feel this. Not as a moral failing, they understand it. Many of them have been there, but as something that pulls them back rather than draws them forward. The 1% of women who have built lives they are genuinely in love with are rare because building that kind of life takes courage. It requires asking yourself the uncomfortable question, if love never came again, would I still be okay? Would I still be happy? Would my life still be rich and meaningful and full? And for many women, the honest answer to that question is terrifying. Because the partnership has been the dream for so long that imagining life without it feels like imagining life without color. But here is the paradox that changes everything. The moment you build a life that is so full, so genuinely yours, so alive with things that matter to you, the moment you reach a place where love would be a beautiful addition rather than the missing piece, that is precisely the moment you become most magnetic. Because now, when a man meets you, he is not meeting someone who needs him. He is meeting someone who chooses him. And being chosen by someone who does not need you, who has 1,000 reasons to be fine without you but wants you anyway, is one of the deepest and most profound feelings in human love. So, what does this look like in practice? It means investing in yourself right now, not after you find someone. It means saying yes to the art class, the travel, the new business idea, the friendship you have been neglecting. It means building a daily life that you are genuinely excited to wake up to, not as a strategy, not as a way to attract a man, but because you deserve a life like that, and because the woman who has that life, the woman who is already whole, is the woman who changes the entire game of love. Number 3, she communicates desire without desperation. Let us talk about something that is rarely discussed openly, and that is the difference between communicating desire and performing need. This distinction is subtle, it is nuanced, but it is absolutely central to understanding why some women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s draw men to them with almost effortless ease, while others, equally worthy, equally wonderful, keep finding that men pull away just when things seem to be going well. Desire, when expressed cleanly, is one of the most attractive things in the world. When a woman can say with warmth and confidence, and a kind of quiet certainty, I really enjoy spending time with you, or I find you incredibly interesting, or I would love to see you again. This is a gift. It is direct. It is honest. It is generous. It lets a man know where he stands without leaving him guessing. And men, particularly those who have been in relationships where they never quite knew where they stood, respond to this with genuine gratitude and deepened attraction. But there is a version of this expression that crosses the line from desire into desperation, and the crossing is subtle enough that many women do not even realize it is happening. It is the text that comes 3 hours after the last one. It is the way a plan gets made too quickly, as if every interaction needs to be nailed down and confirmed and secured. It is the conversation that always seems to circle back to where things are going and what this means and whether he is serious. It is the slight anxious edge that creeps into the voice when things get quiet for a few days. None of these things are character flaws. Every single one of them comes from a deeply human place, from the wound of uncertainty, from the memory of past abandonment, from the very understandable fear of hoping for something and having it not work out. But they communicate something to a man that is not what you intend to communicate. Instead of saying, I value you, they say, I need you to make me feel okay. And being the source of someone else's emotional regulation is a heavy, often suffocating responsibility. The 1% of women who have mastered this, who can express genuine desire without an undercurrent of need, have typically done one of two things. Either they have done the deep inner work to understand and heal their attachment patterns, or they have simply lived long enough and made enough peace with uncertainty that they have stopped needing the outcome to secure their sense of self. This is the woman who can go on a wonderful first date and feel genuinely happy about the experience regardless of whether it leads to a second one. This is the woman who can say, I really like you, and then let that land and release it, without monitoring his reaction for signs of whether her admission was too much. This is the woman who can have a few days of silence and fill that time with her own life rather than dissecting what the silence might mean. She is not indifferent. She is not playing games. She is not withholding her feelings strategically. She is simply, and this is the key, she is simply at peace with the fact that not every connection will become what she hopes it will become, and that her okayness is not contingent on any particular outcome. This kind of emotional self-sufficiency, and I want to be very clear that I am not talking about coldness or emotional unavailability, but this genuine, warm, grounded self-sufficiency is extraordinarily attractive. Because a man who meets a woman like this knows something important about her. He knows that if he chooses to be in her life, he is there because she genuinely wants him, not because she needs him to hold her together. And that knowledge that he is chosen rather than clung to is one of the most powerful foundations for lasting love. Number 4, she brings her feminine warmth to the table without becoming his mother. This one is going to require some nuance, and I want to be gentle with it because I know it touches on something that a lot of women in long-term relationships or past marriages have experienced. There is a pattern that develops slowly, almost imperceptibly, in many relationships, particularly for women who are naturally caring, naturally nurturing, naturally oriented toward taking care of the people they love. The pattern looks like love. It feels like love. But over time, it shifts from being a partner to being a caretaker. And the shift, quiet and gradual as it is, can fundamentally change the romantic and erotic energy of a relationship. Here is what happens. A woman who is genuinely warm and caring begins to notice the things her partner needs. She reminds him about appointments. She makes sure he has eaten. She worries about his stress levels and tries to manage them. She takes on emotional labor around his moods. She smooths over difficulties. She anticipates needs before they are expressed. All of this feels, from the inside, like love, like devotion, like being a good partner. But here is what it feels like from the outside. It feels like being managed. It feels over time like being cared for in the way a child is cared for. And when a man begins to feel like a child in a relationship, the romantic energy evaporates, not because he does not appreciate the care, not because she is doing anything wrong morally, but because romance and erotic charge live in the space between two adults who choose each other freely, not in the space between a caretaker and her charge. The women who avoid this pattern, and they are rare, have found a way to remain warm and caring without crossing the line into management. They offer rather than insist. They express concern without hovering. They nurture without controlling. They are soft and warm and caring genuinely, but they maintain a fundamental belief that the man in their life is a capable adult who can handle his own affairs. This is a balance that requires conscious attention, particularly for women who have spent decades as mothers, as the person who holds everything together, as the emotional center of a family. The caretaking instinct is deep and beautiful, but in a romantic relationship, it needs to be offered, not imposed. The 1% of women who get this right have something in their energy that men describe in different ways, but that always comes back to the same quality. She makes me feel taken care of without making me feel managed. She is warm without being suffocating. She cares without controlling. I feel like her equal, not her project. And this quality, this balance of warmth and respect for his autonomy, creates a romantic dynamic that deepens over time rather than flattening. Because both people remain whole. Both people remain in their own authentic power. And the love between them flows between two self-possessed adults rather than between a caretaker and the person she is caring for. Number 5. She has made peace with her past, but she has not become her past. Here is something true about the women who walk into later chapters of their lives and love beautifully. They have been through things. There is no woman of 50 or 60 who has lived a life untouched by loss, by disappointment, by love that did not work out the way she hoped. This is simply the nature of a full life. And the women who emerge from those experiences with both wisdom and openness, who have been shaped by their history without being defined by it, are among the most remarkable human beings on this earth. But here is the challenge. When pain is real and deep and unprocessed, it has a way of leaking into the present, not always obviously, not always consciously. Sometimes it shows up as a kind of armor, a protective hardness around the heart that the woman herself may not even recognize as armor because it has been in place so long that it feels simply like who she is. Sometimes it shows up as a narrative that runs on a loop. Men always do this. This always happens to me. I knew it was going to turn out this way. Sometimes it shows up as a hypervigilance in early dating, scanning constantly for signs that history is repeating itself, seeing red flags where there may only be normal human imperfection. Men feel all of this, even when they cannot name it, even when they are generous and patient. There is a heaviness to being with someone who carries the weight of their past into every new moment. And however understandable that weight is, however legitimate the wounds that created it, it creates distance. The woman who has genuinely made peace with her past has done something extraordinary. She has looked at everything that happened, the marriages that ended, the loves that faded, the betrayals, the disappointments, the years she may feel she lost, and she has found a way to carry all of it without being crushed by it. Not by pretending it did not happen, not by toxic positivity, not by refusing to feel the grief, but by moving through the grief and arriving slowly, painfully, and ultimately beautifully at a place of genuine equanimity. This woman can talk about her past without bitterness in her voice. She can acknowledge what happened clearly, honestly, without turning it into a warning, without using it as evidence that love is not safe, without making the man in front of her feel like he is being asked to prove himself against a jury of her past experiences. She has done the inner work therapy, journaling, prayer, meditation, friendship, time, whatever her path was. And she arrives in the present as someone who is fully present, not dragging the past along like a chain. And paradoxically, because life is often paradoxical in this way, her willingness to have been broken and to have rebuilt herself is one of the most attractive things about her, because it signals resilience. It signals emotional depth. It signals a woman who has been tested by life and who has chosen, again and again, to remain open. Men who are worth being with recognize and deeply admire this. They see the whole person, not just the pleasant surface, but the full, complex, beautifully imperfect human being, and they are moved. Number 6, she understands and honors the art of mystery. In an age of oversharing, of social media confessionals, of third date conversations that cover every childhood trauma and past relationship in exhaustive detail, the woman who understands the value of mystery is a vanishing breed, and she is absolutely magnetic. Mystery is often misunderstood. People hear the word and think of game playing, of withholding, of manipulative aloofness designed to keep a man chasing. This is not what we are talking about. The mystery of the 1% woman is not strategic. It is not performed. It comes from something real, from having a rich enough inner life that cannot be fully downloaded in a conversation or two, from having depth that reveals itself gradually, from being a person whose complexity unfolds over time rather than being presented all at once. Think about the most fascinating people you have ever met. What made them so compelling? Was it that they told you everything about themselves immediately? That they left no corners unexplored? Or was it that every conversation with them opened a new door? That you always left feeling like there was more to know, more to understand, more to discover? The capacity to be fascinating over time rather than fascinating and then familiar is one of the rarest and most underappreciated qualities in human relationships. And older women who have lived full, complex, layered lives, have every ingredient necessary for this kind of ongoing mystery. They have stories, they have depths, they have contradictions that are fascinating rather than confusing. They have perspectives shaped by experience that surprise and challenge. What they often lack is the permission to let these things be revealed gradually. The culture and the anxiety of dating again after years away from it often pushes in the opposite direction, toward transparency, toward openness, toward laying everything on the table quickly as proof of authenticity, and authenticity is beautiful. But there is a way to be authentic and still leave something for tomorrow. There is a way to be genuinely open and still have depths that have not yet been plumbed. The practical application of this is simpler than you might think. It is not about withholding information. It is about not feeling the need to fill every silence. It is about letting conversations breathe rather than rushing to cover every topic. It is about being comfortable with a question that says, "Tell me more about that," rather than volunteering everything before anyone has asked. It is about maintaining a private interior, life experiences, thoughts, creative projects, spiritual practices that belong to you and are not immediately uploaded to the relationship for processing. This woman has a self, a real, ongoing, private self. And that self is endlessly interesting to the man who is lucky enough to get closer to her, because every layer he uncovers reveals another layer beneath it. Every conversation leaves him wanting more, not because she is withholding anything, but because she is genuinely, richly, deeply herself. And the self of a woman who has truly lived is inexhaustible. Number 7, she chooses him every day without making it a transaction. This is the point in the video where we talk about love as an ongoing act rather than a permanent state. Because one of the things that distinguishes the woman who loves deeply and sustainably from the woman whose relationships seem to peak early and then plateau is this: the understanding that love is not a noun, it is a verb. It is not something you fall into and then possess. It is something you do, actively, again and again, in small and large ways, throughout the life of a relationship. Men feel acutely whether they are being chosen or taken for granted. This is often discussed in the context of women feeling taken for granted in relationships, and that conversation is absolutely valid and important. But it is equally true in the other direction. When a man feels like he is simply the arrangement, the person who fills a role, who provides security, who shows up because that is what the relationship requires, something vital drains out of his engagement. He is there, but he is not really there, and the relationship becomes functional rather than alive. The woman who chooses her man actively, who finds ways, small and genuine, to communicate that she is glad he exists, that she is glad he is in her life, that she sees him and appreciates him, creates something that is remarkably rare and remarkably powerful. And here is the key. This is not about grand gestures. It is about texture. It is about the small moments that accumulate into a feeling of being valued. It is the message that says simply, "I was thinking about you today, and it made me smile." It is the genuine interest in his projects, not because she needs to be involved, but because she cares about what matters to him. It is the moment of physical affection that asks nothing in return. It is noticing when he is tired and responding with softness rather than demands. It is celebrating his wins genuinely, from a place of actual joy rather than obligatory support. But, and this is the crucial second half, she does all of this without making it a transaction, without keeping score, without attaching a demand or an expectation to every act of kindness. This is the difference between love and manipulation. Real love gives because giving is its nature. It does not calculate. It does not keep a ledger. It does not remind the other person of everything it has done when a conflict arises. The woman who can love generously and freely, who chooses her person every day without making him pay for the privilege of being chosen, is extraordinarily rare. Because generosity of this kind requires a profound security in oneself. It requires not needing the giving to be matched exactly, immediately, in kind. It requires trusting that love, when it flows freely, comes back. Not necessarily in the same form, not necessarily on the same timeline, but it comes back. And the man who finds himself loved in this way genuinely, freely, without strings, does not leave. Because this is the thing every human heart is searching for: the love that sees you fully and loves you anyway. The love that gives without calculating. The love that chooses you, not because it has to, but because it wants to, every single morning. Number 8. She is at peace with her body, and that peace is absolutely magnetic. Let us have an honest conversation about something that touches deeply on what it means to be an older woman in a culture that has not always been kind about the aging female body. Because the messages, they are everywhere. They are in the advertisements, in the magazine covers, in the algorithms, in the before and after photos, in the subtle and not so subtle implication that a woman's desirability has an expiration date that came sometime in her 30s. And many women have internalized these messages so deeply that they carry them into the bedroom, into the mirror, into every moment of physical intimacy. The inner critic that notices every changed pound, every new line, every body part that no longer looks the way it did at 25 or 35. The anxiety that lives in the space between who you are now and who the culture says you should look like. The way physical self-consciousness can pull a woman out of the present moment and into her head, monitoring, evaluating, bracing for judgment. Men feel this, not always consciously, but the energy of a woman who is at war with her body permeates every interaction. It shows up in the way she holds herself, in the jokes she makes at her own expense, in the way physical intimacy carries a slight edge of performance and apology, in the way she can never quite be fully present in her own skin because part of her is always watching from the outside. And now let me tell you about the 1%. The women who have fought this particular battle, who have looked at everything the culture has told them about their bodies and their age, and who have consciously, deliberately, sometimes painfully chosen to lay down that particular weapon and make peace. These women, and they exist at every shape and size and age, carry themselves differently. There is a settled quality to them, a comfort in their own skin that is, paradoxically, one of the most physically attractive things imaginable. Because physical attraction is not, at its core, primarily about the body. It is about the energy the person inhabits their body with. It is about the comfort and the confidence and the sense that this person is fully at home in their physical self. A woman who moves through the world at ease in her body, who laughs without covering her mouth, who makes eye contact without flinching, who touches and is touched without apology, is extraordinarily magnetic. Her body language communicates something that cannot be faked. I am enough, exactly as I am. This does not mean giving up on health, on vitality, on taking care of yourself. The opposite, actually. The woman who has made peace with her body is often the woman who takes the best care of herself, not from a place of punishment or anxiety or comparison, but from a place of genuine love for the vessel that carries her through life. She exercises because it makes her feel strong and alive, not because she is trying to erase herself. She eats nourishing food because she deserves to be nourished. She sleeps and rests because she honors her own needs. And in relationship, in intimacy, this peace with the body creates something remarkable. It creates presence. It creates the ability to actually be in the experience rather than observing it anxiously from the sideline. And presence in intimacy is everything. It is the difference between going through the motions and truly connecting. And a man who gets to experience a woman who is genuinely present, who is actually there with him, fully, unguardedly, will not easily forget that, regardless of anything the culture has told either of them about age and bodies and desirability. Number 9. She maintains her friendships and her own world. Here is a pattern that plays out quietly and painfully in many relationships, and it tends to happen most among women who have been deeply hurt before and who, having found someone who seems safe and good, want nothing more than to fold their entire life into the relationship. It starts with completely understandable instincts, wanting closeness, wanting security, wanting to build something real and shared. but it can cross, almost without anyone noticing, into a gradual erosion of the woman's own world. The friendships get called less, the hobbies quietly get set aside. The solo interests, the independent plans, the things she used to do without reference to anyone else, they begin to organize themselves around the relationship. And suddenly, the man is not just her partner, he is her best friend and her primary social world and her entertainment and her emotional support and her weekend plans. He is everything. And this is where it becomes quietly suffocating, because no man, no matter how devoted, no matter how emotionally capable, can be everything for another person. It is too much. The weight of being someone's entire world is crushing. And men who begin to feel that weight often respond by creating distance, which then makes the woman more anxious and more clinging, which creates more distance in a cycle that tends to end in pain for everyone. The 1% of women who understand this keep their world, not out of strategy, not because they are playing a game, but because they have genuinely internalized the truth that a full, independent life makes them happier, healthier, and infinitely more interesting to be with. They keep their friendships, the women who know their history and laugh at the same jokes and talk on the phone for 2 hours at a time about everything and nothing. They keep their hobbies, the painting or the garden or the book club or the travel plans that belong entirely to them. They keep their social life independent of the relationship. And what this does to a relationship is remarkable. First, it ensures that the woman retains a stable sense of self that is not contingent on the relationship, which keeps the anxiety low and the confidence high. Second, it makes her genuinely interesting, because she has a life happening outside the relationship that brings new energy, new stories, new experiences into it. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it maintains the space that allows attraction to breathe. Attraction requires some space. It requires the experience of missing someone, of wondering about them, of anticipating the next time. When two people are completely merged, when there is no separateness, no mystery, no space between their lives, attraction tends to flatten. But when both people retain their own lives, their own friendships, their own interests, when there is always something new being brought into the shared space, the relationship stays alive. The attraction stays alive. Men love this about the rare woman who has it. They love that she does not need constant entertainment. They love that she has other places to put her energy and her emotions. They love that their time together is genuinely special because it is not the only time that matters. And they love deeply, almost primally, the slight pull of her separateness. The fact that she exists beyond them, that there is a whole world to her that they are lucky to be invited into. Number 10. She has learned the exquisite difference between being needed and being wanted. We arrive, finally, at the 10th thing. And this one, I believe, underlies all of the others. Because if you truly understand this distinction, everything else begins to fall into place almost naturally. Being needed is a familiar sensation for many women, particularly for those who have spent years as mothers, as caretakers, as the person who holds everything together. There is warmth in being needed, security in it even. When you are needed, you know you have a place. You know you will not be abandoned, because without you, something falls apart. The need is a kind of tether, and for a woman who carries the fear of abandonment, a tether feels like safety. But here is what being needed costs. It costs you the possibility of being truly wanted, because real wanting, happens between two self-sufficient people who choose each other freely. Wanting says, I have everything I need, I am whole on my own, and I still choose you. I still want you in my life. Not because I cannot survive without you, but because with you, life is more beautiful than it would be alone. Need says, without you, I would struggle. Without you, something essential is missing. You are responsible for my wholeness. You are responsible for my happiness. And this, however flattering it might feel in a moment, is ultimately a burden that no loving person wants to carry for another. The woman who has understood this distinction truly understood it. In her bones, approaches relationships differently from the ground up. She does not seek out men who need her, because she has learned that dynamic is not love, it is caretaking. She does not signal her own need, because she has done the work to become genuinely complete in herself. She comes to love not as a transaction, I will give you what you need if you give me what I need, but as a genuine gift. I want to share my life with you. I want to love you. I want to choose you every day. Not because I need to, but because I want to. And this freedom at the center of her love makes everything possible. It makes honesty possible because she does not need to perform or pretend to keep him. It makes depth possible because she does not need to protect herself from being fully known. It makes longevity possible because the love between two free, whole people does not depend on either person shrinking to make the other feel important. The man who finds a woman like this, who has done the extraordinary inner work to arrive at genuine wholeness, responds with his deepest self, because she calls forward the best of him. She shows him by example what it looks like to love well, and in her presence, he wants to rise. He wants to be worthy, not because she demands it, but because who she is makes him want to be everything he is capable of being. This is the woman. This is the 1%, and she is not a type. She is not a set of techniques. She is not a strategy or a formula. She is the result of a choice made repeatedly, painfully, courageously to know herself, to honor herself, to heal herself, and to arrive at love as a full human being, rather than a half one looking for someone to complete her. She can be any age. She can have any history. She can carry any set of past experiences, joys, sorrows, and lessons. Because the things we have talked about today, the curiosity, the wholeness, the self-sufficiency, the warmth without control, the peace with the past and the body, the mystery, the world of her own. None of these are the exclusive territory of the young. If anything, they are the rewards of having truly lived, of having been broken and healed, of having loved and lost and chosen again and again to remain open. You are not too old for this. You are, in many ways, finally ready for it. And now I want to take a moment to speak directly to you. Yes, you, the woman watching this right now. Perhaps you are sitting with your morning coffee. Perhaps you found this video in the quiet hours of the night when the thoughts get louder. Perhaps you were sent here by a friend who knew you needed to hear something exactly like this today. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know something. The fact that you are here, that you are still curious and still seeking and still open to the idea that love and connection and deep, genuine partnership are possible, that alone puts you in the 1% we have been talking about today. Because the women who stop asking, who close off, who decide that the risk is no longer worth it, those women exist, but you are not one of them. You are here. And that is everything. Now we have come to the part of this journey where I want to ask something of you, and I want to ask it genuinely, from one heart to another. This channel, The Heart Compass, exists because of you. It exists because women just like you need a place where the conversation is real, where no one is pretending that the years of experience you carry are a disadvantage, where the truth is told with kindness and the wisdom of women who have lived is treated as exactly what it is: extraordinary. If this video gave you something today, a new thought, a different way of seeing yourself or your relationships, a moment of recognition where you thought, yes, that is exactly it, please give this video a like right now. That small action tells the world that this kind of content matters. That conversations about love and aging and self-worth and genuine connection deserve to be heard. Please subscribe to The Heart Compass if you have not already. Hit that notification bell so that every new video comes straight to you. Because I promise you, every week, we are going to keep having conversations like this one, deep, real, centered entirely on you and what you deserve. Leave me a comment below. I want to know which of these 10 resonated most deeply with you today. Was it the piece about mystery? The one about choosing without transaction? The one about the difference between being needed and being wanted? Tell me, I am here. I read every single comment, and your words, your real, honest, vulnerable words, often inspire the next conversation we have together on this channel. Share this video. There is a woman in your life who needs to hear this. Your friend, your sister, your daughter, your mother, the woman you had coffee with last Tuesday who is going through something hard right now. Send it to her. Give her this gift. Tell her that this channel is for her too. And if you want to go even further, if you want to support this channel in a way that truly makes a difference and helps us keep creating content that matters, please scroll down and send a super thanks. Every contribution, no matter the size, goes directly into making this channel better, longer, deeper, more of what you love. It is the most direct way to tell us to keep going, and we will. We will keep going for you. This is the heart compass, and the needle on this compass does not point toward someone else's idea of love. It points toward yours. It points toward the love that sees you fully, the complicated, beautiful, experienced, occasionally bruised, deeply alive woman that you are, and says, yes, her, exactly as she is. That is the love you are capable of attracting, and it begins always, inevitably, beautifully, with you. Until next time, take care of your heart. It knows the way.